guys, welcome to another Coffee and Critique, 2 weeks in a row. This is a special, aren't they all special? Special Coffee and Critique session. Coffee and Critique, by the way, is where I have a coffee in hand. This week it's iced coffee. And go over some of the photos from yesterday's album that just went live. This week was week 48, inspired by a famous photographer. And this week I took out some photos from special members of 52Frames, present and former committee members, as well as those that do so much work for 52Frames behind the scenes. So just my way of giving a shout out, a small token of my appreciation and my thanks for all that you guys do. So I picked out 13 of you. This isn't everyone that's behind the scenes, but forgive me if I missed you. But I took out some current committee members and helpers, and we'll try and go over these 13. But first, I have 2 new patrons from last week. So thank you guys so much for supporting our Patreon project. Shout out to Lieni and Bridget. And I see, Bridget, you have the t-shirt level of $10 a month, so we'll be sending out your 52Frames t-shirt shortly. Thank you, both of you guys, gals rather, for supporting the project and appreciating the vision. Very soon, I will have some exciting news for you regarding some web development, which is really cool. Okay, so I'll try and do this as quick as possible. This one will take a little bit more time because I have here I put together a Google Doc of the ones that I took out so that I can see your captions, so that I can bypass Facebook, and I also pulled out your inspiration, the photographers that you emulated, and we'll do some side-by-side comparisons, a little bit different than usual. I think it'll be fun. So let's start with Les Goldschmidt, who is in 52Frames longer than me, which is not really possible since I started it, but it feels like, Les, I believe you are in it from day one. No, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Les is, I call him the godfather of 52Frames, both because, Godfather is someone that takes care of you in time of need, and also because if you cross him, he may kill you. No, I'm just joking. So, Fan Ho, homage. Was that a pun? Fan Ho, if you guys don't know, one of my real favorite photographers, just exceptional work, and very interesting. So I found this to be quite similar, actually, to Irina's photo, which was our number 3 photo this week in the album. Similar type of squares, different photographer. Irina was emulating Eugenia Maximova and his square settings. So interesting crossover there. And this is the Fan Ho photo that you emulated, and I think you did a wonderful job. Even though it's not street per se, I think you did a beautiful job with this nice negative space, black and white. You got the squares. It's really nice. It's really telling. And I'm a big fan of Fan Ho. That was a pun. Nina, inspired by the works of J.C. Parker and Kathleen Clemens. So I just pulled that up here on Google. I don't see offhand perhaps an exact photo that you were going for, but you did say inspired by, which is the theme here. And it's gorgeous. I mean, it's also very much in your inimitable style of this soft, nuanced, flower-esque feminine looks that you grace us with on many occasions. And this one is a bit different. I'm not even sure how you put this together, and I really like it. I like this. Looks like it's submerged in water, clouds. Very cool, very well emulated. Okay, Marina, playing with fire. So you emulated Rinko Kawachi. This also really great exercise for me. Some of these photographers I was aware of. I am completely self-taught like many of you. I did not go to photography or art school, so it was very enlightening just to go through these photographers and learn with you. I didn't quite pull out an exact photo like you were describing with the candles. So I can't really speak for emulating a specific photograph or style. I'm not sure if I had made a mistake there, but I do really like your tones. It seems very intentional that you were going after a photo like you mentioned in your caption. And I really, really enjoy the color pattern here, the color scheme that you have going here, this nice teal that matches with the red. And I think it's a very nice composition. I think this can go on a wall. I really think it's some really nice stuff. Nick, congratulations on your 100th submission. Apparently a few people had their 100th submission this week. Started on the same week as you. Oh, is that last year, week 1? That would make sense. All That Glitters, David Lachapelle. So, let's bring this up. Excuse the nudity. Hopefully this won't be an issue on YouTube. So, first of all, I really... I didn't think I knew the photo, but it seemed recognizable, and I like that off the bat. That it's clear that it's a style that you're emulating, and it's very intentional, very cool. I like the glitter. Looking at the original, I think you could have done a little bit more with your tones. I see you have a lot of purple tones here. Looking over here, in this image, I'm seeing a lot of yellow and a lot of blue. So you can maybe go to something like your split toning, where you can affect your highlight color and your shadow color. And I would bring my shadows into the blue. I'd also go to my white balance and move that away from purple. Green will counteract the purple somewhat. And I would have the highlights over here. Looks like this orangey yellow. So maybe like there-ish, and then bring up that saturation a bit. You know, something to play with here. It's not quite spot on. You'd have to really play around with it. Take down the purples and the greens. You really just want these punchy blue and orange to cut out. But if you look at the before and after, I think the tones match a bit better. I don't think I did a very good job, but I hope you can see my point in matching the tones a little bit more to get the to get that effect from the photographer that you were emulating. But I really like that shot. Really nicely done. We have here Doreen a la Robert Capa. So I also couldn't find a specific photograph that was similar to your depiction that seemed like you were emulating a specific photo. Robert Capa was street photographer, wartime photographer, and you wrote in your caption that this was just, you know, raw 50 millimeter prime lens, got up close, you know, no zooming from afar. And aside from emulating, I mean, I think it's a wonderful shot. This shot really looks like it could be one of the photos in Google Images here that I'm looking through. It has the grit. It has that nice black and white quality of yesteryear, which I see in a few of your shots, this black and white grunge where you're crushing the blacks, right? Where, you know, if I pulled this up and So, oh, actually, you're not clipping. Your blacks are safe. Ordinarily, I would look at a photo like this and I would critique, saying your darks are a little bit too dark. Your blacks are lacking detail here. In the jacket here, we're not seeing any of the folds. We're not seeing these people. And you look at these street photo shots of these photographers in the film days, and all the blacks were crushed. That was the style. I think it's an interesting observation on, what is correct in photography, because I really do appreciate the style as well. So really nicely done, Doreen. It looks like film. You really processed this really nicely. You should be proud of that shot. Okay, so moving right along, Tzipora. So this is a really striking shot. I remember this catching my attention as I was looking through the album. You are basing this off of Mario Testino. And if we pull up Mario Testino, we can see, like you mentioned, portraits where there's direct eye contact, where there's a lot of color, and you emulated. You said there was not a specific photo that you were going after. I think that it's great that you got inspiration from this photographer. I don't see a direct correlation. I think you're lacking in color. This is a really nice warm brown kind of sepia tone, which I'm not really seeing in his photos. Again, that could just be we were looking at different photos. But judging the photo on its own, I think it's a wonderful portrait, very interestingly framed, just lovely leading lines happening naturally, and of course the eye contact, nicely lit, a really nice photo. All of these photos, incidentally, they stand on its own. They have a certain weight and power to them that ordinarily, I think my shot included, if I can speak personally, ordinarily may lack in other 52 frame submissions. I find sometimes my photos are like, all right, here you go, like this is the best I could do. And these photos, even when they miss the mark, which I think inevitably they would, because we have 7 days to try and emulate a photographer that we just found based on their life's work and professionalism. But I think that power still came through with these photos. I mean, these photos are all fantastic. So good job, Tzipora. And I really enjoyed seeing your shot this week. Okay. Ernst. This photo was inspired by the work of Anton Korb, I don't know how to pronounce that, but the Dutch pop star photographer. He said he always shoots in black and white, and it's hard to find smiling people on his photos. So it looks like you went with your model in the freezing Dutch weather. And I looked up this photographer, and some things that I'm seeing, very striking. This photographer, very dark, and all of his backgrounds are either very simple and close to the photographer, and they're generally a darker shade or completely black. So I do see some similarities and this one I pulled out here is a kind of street photo just to compare. So I do see the comparison, but my critique for your shot is I think your shot, it's too kind. It's not as angry. You mentioned that nobody's smiling. I mean, this guy looks angry, so perhaps you could have gotten your model to evoke a little bit more of this aggressive emotion that I'm seeing in these photos. But also I think you could have placed your model in front of a backdrop that was a bit darker and a bit closer. So I don't know if I can really show what I'm talking about, but definitely like bring down these highlights and the blacks. I'll turn the clipping warning off. The blacks much darker, right? and we'll go ahead and bring our subject back up, or we'll try as best as we can, just so that it's not ridiculous. But that already to me is a little bit more aggressive, is a little bit more, I mean, you see the difference. Just, I think, and your photo is great. Standalone, it's a really nice portrait. I think you did lack some focus on the eyes there, and it's the focus is a bit more on the hair. But as far as emulating the photographer, I think it could have been a bit more grungy, a bit more dark, which is a funny critique, I think, out of context, but really nicely done. Ernst. Carenza. Cindy Sherman. So I brought up Cindy Sherman here. I'm not sure exactly if you are emulating a specific photo because you didn't link to a specific photo, but this is a really cool photographer. A lot of cartoony type of setups with heavy makeup, heavy color, very interesting. So I think you did well. I think you got, okay, here we go. Okay, interesting. Let's bring this up so we can see it bigger. So again, this is inspired by a famous photographer. This isn't copy a famous photographer's photo. So excuse me if I'm critiquing too heavily on the accuracy of this emulation. That's not my intent. I'm just putting out there some critiques of how to get a certain style. How if you want to match a certain style, which is very important in modern day photography, you're going through 52 frames albums, you're going through Flickr 500px, and you follow a photographer that you really like their style. There are ways to reverse engineer. There are ways to look at a photo and go after that style on your own without asking the photographer, how did you do this? So I hope it helps just as far as a practice of this exercise of emulating, which I think is really cool. So for this photo, I'm not going to pull it up and try and do something because I don't think I'll do it justice, but you really would have had to fake tan your subject or really bring out the oranges in like a ridiculous way. As I said, I'm not going to do that. I'll see if I could do that. I don't know if this is more, okay. So there, that already, and let's see if I make another brush and make it like super green, because the backdrop really, I think it needed to be a little bit crazier, the backdrop. Let's see if we can try and, okay. Yeah, okay, that's something. Let's see if we can make it green. Now, of course, this is just a quick, dirty, obviously you'd have to do this with some finesse, although this isn't my intention to say that you should like try and do this with a brush. What I'm saying is your backdrop should have been different. I think the backdrop could have matched a bit better. So here's my, my point is everything should be more exaggerated. The color should have been way crazier to emulate this photographer. And we'll go back to the default here. I could show you before and after. I mostly messed with the backdrop, but it's cool. It's really cool, and I think you did a good job. And I think if you went more over the top, it would have been a bit more in the style of our photographer here. A good job nonetheless. Zahava, nightlife inspired by George Versailles. So I looked him up here, and again, I see a specific photo that you're emulating. He does have a very cool style here. I really like this photographer's work going through it. And I think you had some intent here with what looks like a doll figure, but I can't really critique as I'm not really seeing the correlation. So my apologies for that. It is an interesting photo and an interesting story, and I think you do have some depth going on here with your depth of field, having it out of focus in the foreground. I think that adds to the story, but I'm not really sure what the story is, and I wish you were here to be able to respond, but there's only so much critique I could give, so my apologies for that. But very cool photographer that you emulated. And we have here a couple more. Just trying to keep these short, so sorry for running through some of these. Renee, you shot inspired by Anton, the same portrait photographer that Ernst used, which is very cool. And I think it would be interesting to see a bunch of side-by-sides of everyone that had the same photographer. I think somebody mentioned that in the group as well. So you have here your inspiration. I pulled these out, these two photos here. And that's cool because it's, again, we're not just copying photos. You took inspiration, and you know, you got the blacks really black, and you have this stark scene, and this subject looks like a boss here with the cigar. Really nice crop, really nice all-around framing. This photo is great. I'm really impressed with it. You did a really nice job. So, well done with that is basically all I have to say. Tanda. So this one was really cool. David Lachapelle. David Lachapelle has crazy over-the-top scenes with heavy on the orange. Kind of like Transformers. If you look at any Transformers screenshot, you'll see a whole lot of orange on the skin tone. But you look at all these subject skin tones, and they're orange. I mean, look at this. This face is orange. Here, they're all extremely orange. So I think first and foremost that you stay true to that. I think that shines the most, which is interesting because a lot of these colors, that was my commentary on it, was about the color palette. And that's really an advanced level. Like, you look at these photographers and you see that they have a color palette. It's the same with painting and photography at the most advanced levels. It comes down to the interplay of light and shadow and the interplay of your color palette, like almost as much as what you're shooting. So like what you're shooting is one thing, and then the whole 50% of that flip side is really just the lighting and the color, which we knew already, but this is just so much more obvious and in your face when you look at a scene that's as ridiculous as this. I think you were emulating this school bus shot a bit, and this, you mentioned this was, more from your imagination, but really nicely done. I mean, you have just randomness happening. I think maybe you could have depicted the scene a little bit further out just to show us a little bit more of the story, a little bit too cropped in. But I really appreciated the colors and the homage to this this wonderful, very interesting photographer. Okay, so we have two more. Nomi. So Nomi, you were inspired by the photographer Kat Vitry Kat. No, I'm joking. Kat Irlin, who does double exposure, and this is straight out of camera, which is very interesting. So I looked up Kat's work here. This is what I could find that was most similar to what you shot, but she does have some very cool portraits as well, and very cool double exposures. And I think this is this is a very interesting, very artsy shot. I'm not seeing the double exposure. I do wish that that was more obvious. And I do wish the exposure was a little bit more balanced. Maybe the lights could have been popping a little bit more. This photo is dark, but we're still seeing, you know, these orange highlights in here, and I think we're missing some highlights in your photo. But very cool photographer that you picked as well. And last but not least, we have Dvir emulating Mick Rock. You have a nice little paragraph here about the work of Mick Rock. Was that his name? Mick Rock? That definitely wasn't his real name. This photo I just popped out of David Bowie, which I felt perhaps you were emulating, but I don't think there was a specific photo you were emulating. I do think you got a really cool grungy photo. I would have gotten a little bit closer to the subject. Mick seems to isolate his subjects more. You're not really seeing so much of the background, or you're seeing a lot of the background with a wide shot. And here you're kind of in between. I think the drums aren't necessarily adding to the shot. Perhaps if you got lower and angled it a bit more to him, but I'm sure there were things in the way and whatnot. But a very cool homage nonetheless. You guys really, really entertaining photos. Really nicely done all around. I was very impressed with this album. It was very enlightening and eye-opening and inspiring. And I'm inspired by you guys. So I hope this was helpful, just going through these photos with you guys. I didn't have some specific intent or technique to give over, but I think perhaps just going through these with you and giving my opinion was helpful to you guys. So thanks so much for watching. If you guys don't want to miss a coffee and critique or any other video that I put out, be sure to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you don't know what 52 Frames is, I don't know why you're watching this for 30 minutes, but definitely go to 52frames.com to join our free 52-week photography project. You guys, I can't wait till 2017. Thanks so much for the support. Thank you for submitting. Until next time, happy shooting. Hi, my name is Yossi Vedest, and I started 52 Frames back in 2011 as a personal passion project of mine for me and my friends to get better at photography through a guided weekly photo challenge. Little did I realize at just how much this would impact thousands of people from all over the world, literally changing the way they perceive their world. I can't count how many letters of gratitude I've received from people in the project, thanking me for all that the project has done for them and for enabling a creative space in their otherwise busy lives. For 2016, I'd like to take this project to the next level. I have spent countless hours and my own money over the last 5 years in making this project something really special, which is why I'm now coming to you for support. I'd like to invite you to become a patron of 52 Frames. In order to keep this project running, from server costs, the emails I send out, the forms we use, it costs me hundreds of dollars every month. But for this year and beyond, I want to do even more. For those of you that know me, know that video is my passion. And I really want to devote more time to creating fun, educational, dynamic video that will help you, the photographer, become better at your craft. Becoming a patron is very simple. All you need to do is pledge any dollar amount each month, and you will have full access to the 52 Frames Patreon page, as well as your personal footing in making this project become something truly special. In addition to that, I have some exciting stretch goals, and that's to hire developers to build a fully functional website, to host our rather large albums off of Facebook, and introduce great functionality like follow, sort, and filter, not to mention the sponsorships and prizes we can give out with a proper budget. 52 Frames is and always will be free to participate. Please help me in continuing to offer this project to creatives around the world. Thank you so much for being a patron. Whether it's $1 a week, $1 a month, or just helping to spread out this message, I so much appreciate you helping and fulfilling my vision and spreading joy and creativity to the world.